name is Freddie Fennick. I welcome you for a tour of Scotland, organised by Royal Irish Tours.
They were responsible for really building many of the buildings that you are about to start seeing from pretty much here on in, building and drop a modern building inside it so that we still keep the old face of the city, which is St George's Square. And this is our main civic square here. You've got famous people who've been part of coming here, and the scientific contributions. But this brand new piece of art coming up that she wrote the letter to have him killed. Any of you Doctor Who? Okay, so if you can... Okay guys, so if you're moving, you have to come back out this way so you can get photographs. Coats of arms. 3 stories to this building, this part of the building, and actually 1 story below. So the whole of this cathedral is built on a hill. So it's a single story at that end, 2 stories, there's 1 below to go down yet. Okay? And the top of all the cathedrals in the UK, I don't know about in Canada, but certainly, and they were all built around about the same time. There was an awful lot of building going on within the church. At one point this became a graveyard, and then after John Knox it was all cleared out, people were reburied in there.
Hi there.
Churches are stronger than the new ones.
Yeah.
behind it, can you see the beautiful building behind it? That is Templeton's carpet factory. So that was where that made there. Oh, here we go, here we go, here we go. Ah! They've given way, they've given way. Were used in some Outlander filming. I think of some outside French chateau, the cottage, Robert Burns's cottage. So what we'll do is, I'll take you to, well, you can have a coffee and do everything under your own steam if you want to do things in your own time. I'll certainly be wandering around.
So that's his cottage, right?
It's going to be up there somewhere.
We're going to drive back.
The cottage is open for...
Yep, we're going to go
She
there.
says it opens at 12. That's why we're waiting till 12.
Oh,
And I'll recite them to you in a minute. But just to give you a clue, the fireplace in Scots was called an ingle. You're welcome. Have a nice Would you like a little light dress like that? Into the rain again. Into the rain again, aye. There's somebody dropped out. A wee map. Sorry.
Got a cold. Everybody got a cold. Somebody got measles, however, everybody got them. And in those days, people were dying with measles.
yes.
Anyway, you see some rather larger houses here. We're talking certainly £1 million. House prices do vary a lot depending on which part of the countryside. Yacht that we'll see down here was where Outlander was filmed. I think it must have been series 3. So I don't know which part of the story. Tomorrow all the tree types, we've got quite a variety of trees around about us at the moment, but the further north we go, the more we'll be in amongst. And in front you'll see a dome-shaped building, house is, and what you would have is a tower house, so that is the tallest part of
These are radars from radars. They will be so a gentle.
واحنا انت يا رجال
Pembe.
Now we've got, it's got to be Charles Mackenzie from Bar, which is World War II. A circle. Right. The state-of-the-art stuff. The other vehicles on the ground are all privately owned, so they're all privately maintained and are quite expensive to run. The next group that's coming in should be the Scottish Homefront Living History Society. Done the wee display, we cutting up firewood, it kept us warm. Next person is just a tramp, really. I don't know why he got on the field, but this is Paul Dre, and he's doing a hobo impersonation. Now hobos were rife after the First World War because that many ex-servicemen coming back, they couldn't settle into life, living on that stand himself, and he even slept in his ragtag little raggy tent. For God's sake, don't talk as First World War chairmen this year. On you come, the history buffs. The next group is a local regiment, the 94th Regiment of Foot, a Napoleonic group. This guy here's picked up a lady for yesterday. Anya, that's it, good. This is a good group. If you ever want them to visit your schools, go and talk to them. They do a wonderful job. Lots of money for the British Legion of Scotland, throughout the year. Some of them have fantastic look. Well done, chaps, for coming in, thanks. Some good fine Scottish regiments there that's gone. Just before we finish, he walks about with me on a Saturday and he picks out a group. We don't want it this year if they haven't went away because of the...
It's amazing how he can turn the road out.
The entrance to these little kind of copper balls that are here. I'm not quite sure what that's about, but hey, it looks quite attractive.
They have lights.
And we had two new gates as well. It is an extinct volcanic plug, and it's where all the curling stone it in the middle of it, and it all comes from Ailsa Craig. Originally, the little towns like this, the older properties, these would have been servants of the people who are living when he first bought it a few years back, Tower House here on the right. That was the entrance to it, and the Abbey was right here. And a little bit further along there's another tower house as well. So tower houses are the castles, probably the biggest one of all of them. But here it comes up here. At the ground level there's no windows. So at the top it looked like a house, and this is where the bigger, this is the town hall here. It looks like a kind of information centre now. And there was a castle here as well. There would be a stronghold of the Earl's army would be here too, and the castle's coming up on our left-hand side, and it's built on this tower house sort of concept just here.
Nice.
And it's a rather grand house, but it's going a bit to rack and ruin, which is a bit of a shame. And there's another building along here that was a listed building, and that means it's very expensive to adapt. And the roof fell in, and eventually they've sold the land for houses which has moved, because they're a bit lower. It used to be a toll bridge, but they took the toll away. But to the left you will see some red and green buoys in the river, and this marks a kind of wall that was built underwater to channel the flow of the river to one side, so that it naturally kind of dredged the river and kept a deep water panel. You can see the mud flats. And sometimes, oh yeah, I can see a cruise ship way in the distance, a big white block. That's a cruise ship looking like it's in. Which might here is Old Kilpatrick. Now Kill, or paid army. The heads of the legions would be from Italy, but the foot soldiers were local people.
Abbotsford.
So Dumbarton had a particularly interesting northern states, obviously protecting their interests in the plantations. But one particular ship was designed for everybody wants to stop and take photographs, but we can kind of hang around. But the beautiful gardens, they really take a lot of pride in their gardens, and but tiny little windows. Remember, like Robert Burns's cottage, you build a cottage to, if you get planning permission to build a new house, it again restricts what materials you can use and that sort of thing as well. Well, this lady's not looking after her garden as much. Oh, yeah, she's got an extension on the side of this. This guy started building it, and then he stopped for about 2 years, didn't he? And we reckon that he hadn't got proper planning permission for it. So it took a long while later before. Yeah, right next to us here. Right next to us. Just looking down the main street. So we're going to take a wee walk down that way.
and slate roofs as well.
Wow.
Again, a fireplace in every room. Okay, if you want to, those who want to come. They were Norsemen on a Viking. Well, refers to them as Vikings. You all know what I'm talking about.
Okay. And so this one dates back to the 6th century. This is easily the oldest.
Where that sports arena was, the Dome, on the other side of the river, because in the winter they put a whole box around it so that the frost doesn't get at it as well. So very interesting. So this was here way before the church and way before the Episcopal grace. So this was built by James Colquhoun, as you can see, and thank you very much. And look up at the ceiling. This is Church's.
Scott St. Kessel. He came here from Ireland long before Columba and long before all the other great saints. He came here to set up a chapel on their site.
A lot of churches. All churches, several congregations are consolidating. Often get people taking photographs of it. Not very deep, these locks at all, and there's a sort of 15 or 50 square miles of Rannoch side, and that is where the open sequence with the polystyrene standing stones that she finds herself in right at the very. So they weren't real, I'm afraid, those in the opening sequence. For those of you after the Second World War and you might just be able to make out on a low slope a ski run. This is like a kind of beginner's, it's called the White Corries, isn't it? Yeah, ski. Purely because of the number of people who go hill walking along here. Now, and there's only about a mile or two of road that goes down there, and then you get to Loch Etive, and there's no road round it at all. The only way to get to travel. these are really the outside edges that you're looking at. It's not hill walking, it's rock climbing that you're doing on. They were given their orders and they were told that in the middle of the night was a drunken officer who was trying to prove himself worthy, so he was going to follow these orders, and about 38 people died, so it wasn't a large number. Live, they had given them warm shoes for their feet, and then they were murdered in their beds. So when we leave here, to our left, the minute they end, if you look sharp in, you'll see to the left church. Can you see it just there? Can you see it? Just tiny little place.
Oh my God.
That was the original church of the village. Listen to everybody. But actually, a very unfair trial. Not only was the judge the head of the Campbell clan, but out of the fifth, the court case was also carried out in
Onik.
of late. But as you can see, this is a stopping point for so many people left.
Fort William.
Top end of it, there's only really the wall left that was the fort of Fort William.
Doesn't make a big click.
That might actually be better.
Oh, we've got the church in the back. That's
Yeah.
great. Good.
We'll send you that one if it's better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but maybe from another.
You can't. No, you can only cross by the train.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
in charge of it all. James Watt, the inventor of the locomotive steam engine, was a surveyor. Hundreds of thousands of pounds more to do, because one of the problems they had was when they were almost complete, they realised that they'd made the canals too shallow.
Look, you can see the shadow of the monster.
Oh, he
It is written that in the 6th century, St. Columba journeyed here to the banks of Loch Ness. This was the land of the Picts, the native people of these highland glens. Columba came to a halt here at Urquhart, where he was inspired to visit a fortress overlooking the loch, on the site of the present castle. It was the home of a Pictish chieftain, Emcheth, who lay close to death. The Irish saint had come here from his island sanctuary of Iona and was on a mission to convert the Picts to Christianity.
Emcheth, I have been summoned by the angels to tell you that your purpose has been noted by the God of the Christians.
Hearing and believing the word of God preached to him by Columba, Emcheth was baptized.
And enter into the hall of the Lord.
Surrounded by his family, in peace, he departed from this world. More than 6 centuries after Columba's visit, this land had become part of the kingdom of the Scots. By 1250, a mighty stone castle stood here on the rocky promontory at Urquhart, guarding the loch. The king had granted the castle of Urquhart with its vast estate to Sir Alan Durwood. When Sir Alan was in residence at his castle, he would spend much of his time in the hills and glens, hunting deer, wild boar. Then disaster struck. At the end of the 13th century, Scotland was in crisis. The wolf was not the only hunter. Scotland itself became the prey. Edward, King of England, saw an opportunity to conquer the Scots. He put a puppet king, John Balliol, on the throne and planned to bring Scotland to its knees. In the spring of 1296, Edward invaded. He set his machines of war against Scotland. Mighty trebuchets pounded the walls of many Scottish castles, reducing them to rubble. Scotland lay at his mercy, its armies scattered, and its great castles captured, Urquhart among them. Seizing castles was easy, but holding them against the Scots was completely difficult. Within a year, Urquhart was once more in Scottish hands. For so long as 100 of us remain alive, we will never consent to subject ourselves to the domination of the English. It is not for glory, riches, or honor we fight, but for freedom alone, which no honest man will lose but with his life. After 50 years of brutal war, the Scots were free from English domination. Peace returned to Scotland, and the inhabitants of Glen Urquhart were able to resume a normal life. The peace proved short-lived. From the west came the MacDonalds. Their ancestors were part Irish and part Norse. They had become the most powerful of the Highland clans. Their clan chief was the Lord of the Isles, but his ambitions went far beyond his island power base. The clansmen of the Lord of the Isles came out of the west and stormed the castle. Sweeping all before them, they took the castle by fire and sword. The Lord of the Isles' thirst for power was a constant thorn in the side of the Scottish king, James IV. In an attempt to stop their ambitions, he stripped the MacDonalds of all their lands and titles. He had other plans for the castle and lands of Urquhart.
Know ye that for the increase of our rental and the promotion of good government in the lands, we have given, granted, and by this present charter confirmed to John Grant the lands of Urquhart with the castle.
With the gift of Urquhart to Sir John Grant, the castle and lands passed forever from the Scottish crown to the chiefs of Clan Grant. But the pen of King James was no match for the swords of the MacDonalds. Like their Viking ancestors, they took to raiding. Each spring the clansmen returned to burn Glen Urquhart. In the Great Raid of 1545, over 1,000 cattle were taken. The castle was seized and stripped of anything of value. The Great Raid proved to be the last the castle inhabitants saw of the men from the west. In the peace that followed, the Lairds of Grant set about the task of rebuilding their shattered castle. They built this stately tower that would serve as a suitable residence for this noble family. In 1689, the Catholic King James VII fled into exile. The Protestants, William of Orange and his Queen Mary, took the throne. The chiefs of Clan Grant threw in their lot behind the new sovereigns and garrisoned Urquhart in readiness for the coming fight. Before long, a force of Jacobites loyal to the exiled Stuart king appeared. They stopped their march and laid siege to the ancient castle. Without heavy guns, the Jacobites could make no impression on the mighty stronghold and withdrew. The Grand Chief Officer of Urquhart Castle decided to abandon the castle to its fate. The gatehouse of the castle was packed with kegs of gunpowder, and the fuse was lit. A brief moment in time ended a story that had begun with Columbus' visit over 1,000 years earlier. This mighty castle, that was once the stronghold of kings and clan chiefs, was reduced to rubble. The Grant Highlanders marched out of the castle for the last time, and Urquhart was left to the flames.
La letrina, el meadero, Antonia. Dale una vuelta a los dos a la de tres. María, María.
No, that's when Columba.
As cold, non in the bush, as loud as possible. We have a life jacket for everyone on board. They are stored around the ship in white chests and under some seats in the sea.
He took to the landscape around it, in particular finding in a cave Curry Road, being cared for by the 7 men of Glenmorris.
And would tell anyone and everyone, dismissing the other's claim. They shouted insults at each other across the wall, and soon the heated argument turned physical, and they took to throwing giant rocks at each other, smashing into the hillsides and destroying them. One of these rocks, the argument.
And well-hanging woods, with well-kept trunk and mouth-holding.
So this is the River Ness. So we've got, oh, there's a man right. Just encouraging the cars in front of us to move. We've got stuck up the lights. It's kind of more modern really, and it was built to. So Coming up on your left-hand side, right-hand side rather, is the town hall. Now, it's been undercover for a couple of years, but so this has just been renovated and it's looking spectacular, absolutely spectacular. And another headquarters of a Clan MacDonald as well. This is the front of the castle, and this is us on the east coast, very, very mature trees, and then the funniest little church is coming up on the right hand side. Hugh and I decided that they must have run out of money when they were building the spire. You lived on it.
Yeah.
You lived on it.
Yeah. It's so hard because when you sit on a
Non, est-ce qu'il y avait la chinoise?